All right, guys, here we go. I would be probably absolutely ignorant if I did not address what is at the top of every single one of our minds right now. And frankly, it makes me um, uh, a little bit hesitant to do something like this because as much as every single one of you that is dialing in today, myself and the billions of people across this world need to continue to sustain their lives and to generate income and to do business. That's just not the priority right now. I know that leads to priority, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But man, I mean, we are just in unprecedented times right now, and it is just stirring up so many emotions. It creates so many challenges for us all. And every one of you is probably isolated. You're at home. You're by yourself. Maybe you're used to this. Maybe you work remotely on a regular basis. But for many of you, this is so different. This is just not normal. And my prayer is that over a very short period of time, by us making some significant sacrifice, we are going to get back to normal. It may be a new normal, things may be different, but we're definitely doing the best that we can right now, given the circumstances that we have. Interestingly enough, and part of the reason why I decided to do this today in this format, which is just so different for me. I've done plenty of webinars, online workshops, and presentations, but there's just something that feels so different about this. I wish that I could see all of your faces right now. I love to be interactive. I love to be staring at people's eyeballs, and maybe I should have done a different format because of that. But as an individual, a business owner that is the sole provider for my family, I'm a coach and consultant. I speak, and I've already had events cancel. I've already had clients stop services with me, and it's cost me about 60% of my income in the last probably 72 hours. And that's devastating to say. And as friends have reached out, as colleagues have reached out, they've asked me, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do? And my first reaction is like, I'm not going to try and go sell something right now. I just don't feel like that's the appropriate thing to do. But more than that, I just told them that, for the last 8.5 years in business, but particularly the last 18 months, every bit of where I am right now has been the result of being myself, of just being authentic, of bearing it all, of trying to do the best I can to share who I am with people, with the hope of attracting people to me that resonate with my message, my vision, my desires, my hopes, my dreams, even in places where we don't align, just trying to be myself and be genuine enough about it to get people to understand that this is what I'm passionate about. And we can exist in a society and a culture and an environment where we want different things. And maybe we even believe different things, as long as we extend empathy and compassion to those that think and look differently than we do. Again, right now, I mean, that's just more relevant than ever, right? This virus does not, is not prone to one versus the other. There is no man or woman. There is no race. It is just after everybody. And so together we will band together. So anyway, so back to, to the question is, so my friend says, or friends have said to me, so what do I do? And I just say, I'm just going to continue to be myself. I'm just going to continue to be as authentic as possible. It's the brand I've leaned into. It's the hat I'm wearing today. I don't always dress like this. Maybe I'm getting the freedom to be a little bit more casual, but be authentic is the brand that I have been pushing more and more into as I've worked through for myself and for the coaching clients and consulting clients I have, what's most important, what's really going to help them get to the place that they want to go in life. And so it is around being authentic, and you're going to see a lot more of this hopefully soon. So I want to start off with, oh, by the way, if you have any questions dump them into the Q&A. I'm going to do my best. It's going to get a little bit awkward as I'm going back and forth between the computer at some point. But if you have questions along the way, throw them in there. I would love to get interactive at some point. I just don't want this to be one way. If you, and I know some of you have seen me speak before, I do better once the crowd gets going, the audience gets going. But anyway, so yeah, so if you have questions along the way, feel free to drop in there. I'll try and pay attention to them. I don't have anybody else moderating for me. But if not, I'll get to them at the end, and I'll make sure to try and address everybody's questions if you have any. So that said, I want to just lay out for you really the challenge that I see as it relates to authenticity, the importance of being authentic. And then I'm going to walk you through 3 practical steps as best as I can in this format, without slides, without a whiteboard, even though there's one right there, to try and just walk you through practically how you can do this for yourself, how you can best live a life of authenticity. And I hope that if nothing else, when I get to the end of this, what you walk away with is a desire to live as authentically as you possibly can, and a belief that in doing so, you will produce the best life humanly possible for yourself. So let's talk about authenticity and the challenges that I see. You know, we live in a society today that on one hand, and coming out maybe one side of our mouth, we talk a lot about just do you. Be proud of who you are. Be comfortable in your own skin. Don't let anybody else dictate, who you are and what you're all about. And so that's wonderful. It's wonderful to see and hear that narrative out there. But the reality is there's another side. And the other side is we also live in a society that is parading around this mask, this false sense of self, this projection that you need to be something amazing in order to be worthwhile, that you need to accomplish great things in life in order to leave a great legacy, that you need to be an amazing parent, that you need to be an amazing child, that you need to be an amazing spouse, that you need to be the best business professional, that you need to go kill it from the stage. Like there's this projection on us all that if we don't do the very best, if we don't succeed, then we failed. And that's just crap. Like, by the way, language may get a little bit crazy here at some points as I get passionate and I'm already really emotional, but, and I don't mean crap language, I mean other things, but we'll see. But we need to fight against this expectation that other people have put on us to be something. We need to lay to rest the fact that if we don't do X, Y, or Z, then we are not 1, 2, or 3. I actually just finished recording just about an hour ago a podcast with a friend of mine. She is a dear, sweet woman. She's super successful. And right now, she's actually in the midst, and she has been for the better part of about a year and a half, I think, of dealing with issues of infertility. And for all you ladies that are on this right now or will watch this, when I say that, if you have any desire at all in your heart to become a mom, you can only imagine how terrible that is. And maybe for some of you, you've experienced that and the struggles of that. And my heart breaks for her as she is trying so hard to step through this process and medically and the devastating financial impact of it. And yet, one of the things that I find so challenging, and this is coming from a man that doesn't have to experience those same things, but there's this narrative in society that women were created to birth children. Not that that's your sole purpose, but that's one of the most important things, is to become a mom. And I understand what people are saying, But when you project that kind of expectation onto somebody, then you can only imagine what that must feel like to not be able to do that. For whatever reason, she may never be able to have kids. And so will she always be less than the woman that can? I mean, when we think about authenticity, like, is it about who she was created to be or who society tells her she has to be? And I know we will all say that, no, it's about who she was created to be. But the narrative just speaks differently. And so that's a big challenge is this balance between what we hear at times in be the best version of yourself and what we end up feeling or seeing, which is, no, you have to accomplish all those things. I'm going to tell you right now, like my deepest belief in this area is you don't need to accomplish things. You don't need to produce anything in order to be worthy. You don't need to produce anything in order to have value. You know, again, this is my own conviction. This is not a projection on you, but I believe that God creates us, and we are all created in the image of God. Infinite worth and infinite value, eternal worth and eternal value. And so that just levels the playing field for me right from the get-go. You don't have to do anything. And as a matter of fact, that also works to the flip side. If you do things that you're not proud of, you make mistakes, you commit some horrible thing, like, you can turn from that. And that doesn't define you. Not only does that not define you as a person, but that doesn't define your worth and your value. But again, like, these are all of like the tensions around this idea of being authentic. And it creates this fear. I mean, even for me, like, there are so many things that, as authentic as I want to be, that I still struggle to talk about. When I was thinking last night about putting this together, I just thought of all the ways that's gotten me into so much trouble and just done so many bad things for me over the years. So one story, I'm not proud of this at all. Um, uh, Back in the early 2000s, I went to work with a guy, great guy. We were kind of going into business together. He was making really good money at the time. I stepped in making about a third of what he was making, but it was still okay money. I had a wife and 2 kids at home, and one of the things that he was really big into was gambling. Particularly, he had a bookie and betting on sports, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, like a lot of stuff. And then, trips to Vegas, and we would go to Laughlin. And so I had always enjoyed playing cards and craps and doing a little bit of betting here and there, but very small potatoes. But the more that I wanted to play in that realm, the more I got sucked into playing at a level that wasn't me. Like, I couldn't afford it. And yet I was trying to live up to this expectation that that I was successful enough to just throw money away. And I lost tens of thousands of dollars in 1 year as the result of trying to be something that I wasn't. And the impact that that had on my family was devastating in so many different ways. It led to frustration in my house, struggles with my wife. There was a lot of other things going on at that time, but there was just so much that was happening. And then, as I was suffering from the financial disaster of losing money, I still had to put on a face with my friends, with colleagues outside of that space, that I was still successful and I was still doing well. And so I was always trying to still throw money out at things, and I was trying to, pick up the tab, and I was just trying to be something that I wasn't, because I cared more about what other people saw of me than what was really going on inside my own head and my own heart. And I was hurting the people closest to me as the result of that. And I'm sure I'll come to more stories as this time goes on. But I'm prone to this, and I still am. It's still really hard for me. Like, I want to tell you right now that like I'm doing fine, and things are going amazing. And I'm a coach talking about being authentic, and I want to be positive, and I want to help people get to all they want to get to in life. And like, I had a meltdown on Tuesday because I lost so much income in one day. And I'm scared. Like, I don't know where that's going to come from. And so that's just the honest me. But like, how much of that do I bear? How much of that do I say before I deter somebody from wanting to work with me because they want to become successful and they want help pushing through those barriers? And yet they look at me and they're like, this guy can't do it. How's he going to help me do it? Hopefully, as I open up and communicate those things to people, they will see that me being on that journey, me working through those things is what helps me to be a great coach for them. But that's up to them to decide. I just need to focus on being myself. So that is the some of the problem I see. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. Next is then why. So, I mean, obviously you've probably heard it through some of what I've said so far, but I just want to go a step further on why authenticity, why being authentic is so important to me, but why I am so passionate about helping other people to become authentic as well. And it really comes down to this idea that, again, however you feel like we got here, I hope we can all agree that we were created with a specific set of gifts and talents, very unique, right? There's nobody else like us in this world. We may share gifts and talents with other people, but our makeup, the way that we execute on them, the way that we see them, like, we are unique. And so in that alone, I say the world needs you and the world needs me. Like, that's crazy to say because I'm a pretty jacked up human being a lot of the time. But the world needs you. It needs me. And so we need to be ourselves so the world can get all of what it is we have to offer. But it's not just that. It's however we got here. If we're here with those gifts and talents, with this specific makeup, walk, talk, feel, then we have a specific purpose as to why we're here. I mean, generally, I would say every single one of us is called here to love and serve other people, to care for other people. Like, that's just the general call. And again, during a time like this, we see that happening. But you also have a specific and unique purpose. And the way that you go about that is going to be very unique to you and the people that are put in front of you, the people that you are put into relationship with, whether that be a spouse or a child or a parent or a friend or a colleague or a client or a vendor or some random person that you meet on social media. The reality is I have a purpose on this earth, and I want to figure that out. And I want to lean into that because as I live out my purpose, not only then is that serving other people, but it's serving myself. Like, we hear people say that if we're not healthy, we're never going to help anybody else to get healthy. If we're not good, it's not going to be good for anybody else. If we're miserable, if we're struggling, if we're suffering, I'm not saying you can't do good for other people, but it's really hard to do for others until we do for ourselves. And that's not selfish. That's not self-centered. Yes, there are things that we can do that are self-centered, that are selfish, but we need to focus on us. We need to figure out what's inside of here and here if we're ever going to truly support the people around us. So I believe that authenticity is key. I believe it is key to the call that we have generally, to the call that we have specifically. And I believe that the more that we lean into who we are, the more fulfilled we will be, the more full of joy and happiness, the better off we will be stepping through crazy struggle and tragedy. Um, um, we have a much better chance at life if we become who we were created to be, if we become our authentic self. So it's a big pitch around the challenges I see and the reasons why I believe we need to lean into this. So let me help you walk through. If you want to take some notes, great. I don't have any real plan here to follow up with people, but if you want some more practical, want a more practical tool or something like that around this, I'll do my best to try and get you something. I'm trying to walk a fine line here, but anyway. So number one, in order to be authentic, first we need to know ourselves. And this one's funny because if you ask most people if they know who they are, they're gonna say yes. But my challenge to you would be to really explore that for yourself. I actually don't believe, excuse me, I don't believe that people know themselves as well as they think they do. And I definitely don't believe that most people know themselves very well at all. And we see this again in the way that people behave, in the way that people act, in the way that people communicate, in the way that people act. Like there's just so much there's so much evidence for the fact that we are just not very self-aware. And there's a lot of books out there on emotional intelligence. A book called Emotional Intelligence. Travis Bradberry wrote it. It's a great book on this idea. But there are a lot of tools out there to help you. But what I would challenge you to do here, and what I try and help most people do when it comes to knowing yourself, is to lay out a list of characteristics. So that could be thoughts, actions, like, who do you think you are? Like, if I said to you, I am I'm a gracious individual. Okay. You, if you know me, you're gonna be able to check whether that's in fact true or not. So start there, list some characteristics out, put together, compile this list of who you think you are. Observe actions, interactions. Like if you work, probably all work. If you work with somebody, observe the way that you're like, are you a helpful person? Are you empathetic? Are you understanding? Are you considerate? Are you caring? Are you aggressive? Are you successful? Do you work hard? Do you chill? Are you introverted? Are you extroverted? Just go through and begin to list out all of these characteristics that you feel help identify who you are. And then, that could take some time, because you should really, you should list a lot. There should be a lot of characteristics there. Who am I? And how do I believe people see me? So that's kind of part one of know yourself. Then part two of know yourself, so we're still on this first idea of knowing yourself, is to then go ask people closest to you if they agree with those characteristics. Now, the challenge here is most of the people around you are not going to be honest enough with you for this to work super well, but it's a good place to start. It's a good place to start to identify, or to help other people, or to have other people help you identify whether or not you are the things you say you are. So that's kind of the know yourself piece, is list out all these characteristics, all of these traits, all of these things that you think you are, things that you think you're good at, things that you think you suck at, whatever. Compile a list of those things. That's the beginnings of knowing yourself. And we're going to work through know yourself, be yourself, become a couple of different times because it'll be helpful. It's a helpful exercise, and this is an ever evolving process. So you put together this list of characteristics. Then you begin a process of evaluation. So again, I use this analogy all the time. This is a really good one. So let's just say that you say, well, I'm a good person. I'm good to other people. I'm considerate of other people. And any one of those works for this analogy reasonably well. So you say that, and then I want you to think about some of the common ways and rhythms by which you demonstrate your goodness towards other people. This one's going to be challenging right now because we can't really do too much, but I would challenge you to think about the way you commute to work. How are you driving down the freeway or the highway? How are you on the subway or on the bus? Are you good to people? Do you react to people? Do you think negatively about other people? Now, you're like, well, yeah, sometimes I do, but it's because they're a jerk on the freeway. Well, that's telling of something too that I can't completely get into right now. But if you believe you are a certain way, and then you demonstrate traits that conflict with the way that you think you are, there is a gap there. There's an issue. There's something that you're going to have to work on, either coming to the reality of I'm not all that I thought I was, or I am that way, but this type of event, this situation, this type of person triggers me or turns me around and causes me to become something that I'm not or don't want to be perceived as. And so observe. A good way to do this is to journal. So every single day, you should do your best to wake up in the morning and just jot down a couple of things. Today is going to be a great day. The 5-minute journal, by the way, is a great tool for this, but today is going to be a great day if I do X, Y, and Z. I really want to have a great conversation with my boss or my coworker, or I want to go out on a date with my spouse. And then at the end of the day, go back to your notes from that day, whether it's 5-minute journal or just on a piece of paper, whatever, and reflect on that. Were you able to accomplish those things? This works well, though I'm not a big fan of task lists every single day. This works well in that regard too. If you're putting down a bunch of tasks that you need to accomplish every single day, you can call them goals, you can call them habits, whatever. If you're listing those out every single day and you're missing them, then there's a problem. And this is why it's important to know yourself. If you are regularly becoming overwhelmed, then there is possibility. This is not a wholesale statement. This is not an every time thing. But if you're constantly becoming overwhelmed and you're not able to accomplish all the things that you set out to do, you definitely could be being assigned too many tasks by somebody else, but that's for a whole other conversation. But for you, it probably means that you don't have a good understanding for what you're capable of in your current situation, and that can all change. But you're not aware of what you're capable of. You're thinking you're putting too much priority to things that don't matter, and so you're putting a whole list of crap down. And you get to the end of the day having accomplished the things that you really care about, but because there's things that you don't give a shit about, you just pass on those. So then you need to create better awareness around where your priorities lie, what's important to you, what's not. And so again, by reflecting on your day, you will begin to see what you're putting importance on, what you're not putting importance on. You're beginning to see how you're acting throughout the day. Also, by the way, you will get an opportunity to see, how do I want to phrase this? By reflecting on your day, you're really beginning to see what you're putting an emphasis on throughout the day. Like, and then as a result of that, how you feel. So if you put an emphasis on, yeah, like every day, like I get my stuff done, I feel really good about it. Well, I would say you're setting yourself up for disaster, because then on the days that you don't get things done because of whatever, yourself, somebody else, then you feel less than. And that's a problem. You shouldn't be putting weight onto those things like that. You shouldn't be feeling accomplished per se based upon the tasks that you produce. It feels good to do them. You should do them, but that's not where you should be weighing worth, value, um, fulfillment, yada yada yada. So there's just a lot there. So as you go about your day, as you go about your week, evaluate, reflect, take time to look back on how you're behaving, how you're speaking, how you're acting. And this can go way back, by the way, right? Like, it's always a fun exercise to go back and think about, the goals that you set last year or the year before or whatever, like what you put a lot of stock in, and see if that was really reflective of who you are as a person, about of the things that you hold in highest regard. So that's really, really important, is for you to constantly be in reflection, on some long-term scale, without putting too much weight on like the distant past, but also in the short term, and being uberly self-aware, making sure that, when you get done with the conversation that did not go the way you wanted it to go, for whatever reason, you should take a couple of minutes to reflect on that. Well, why didn't it go that way? How come it didn't go that way? If somebody got upset with you, well, why did they get upset with you? Did you set an improper expectation? Did you not live up to the person that you've portrayed? Are you portraying somebody that you really aren't? What is it that you can do to change that? It's either going to be changing, your perception of yourself, or the output of yourself. It's going to be one of those two things. Obviously, there's circumstances outside of this. I should have said this earlier, by the way. This whole idea of authenticity and being authentic and being yourself means that we focus only on what we can control. And all we can control is the effort that we put into things and the way we react to circumstance. We really have no control over anything else. So every time that something doesn't go your way, or doesn't, the outcome is not ideal. Yes, you could have an a-hole for a boss. Yes, your spouse could be really pissed off in the moment, but you can't control those things. So don't think about those things. Reflect on yourself. For this exercise, that interaction with other people, that's a whole different conversation. But for this exercise of authenticity and getting clarity around who we are, it's far more important to take all the time to self-reflect. As a coach, I do this all the time in organizations. So I have people come to me. It's usually, by the way, employees that are coming to me pissed off at their manager, or pissed off at the owner of the company. And they're like, they're not appreciating what I'm doing. They're not paying me what I'm worth. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. Like, that could absolutely be the case. But how are you complicit? Like, what have you done to contribute to the way they perceive you? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Well, this isn't about me. This is about them. And I'm like, no. This is about you. You focus on what you can control. I'm actually dealing with this right now in an organization. Super successful, or a very successful salesperson, very committed, great human being. The organization really likes him. I shouldn't have said him, but now I did. Really likes him. Wants him to continue working for them for a long period of time. But there is this challenge because he's facing some personal struggles. And as a result, they are doing some things that maybe they shouldn't be doing in the way that they're interacting with him, treating him. And so during our first conversation together, our first meeting, I focused all on him. I told him, I said, there are things out there externally that could be happening that we need to change, but this is about you. This is about focusing on you. Um, my wife and I talk about this a lot. Maybe she's watching right now. If she is, awesome. If not, she won't be bored by the story that I just talked to her about last night. But this happens a lot in relationships where if you're married or if you're dating somebody, whatever, if you're in a long-term relationship or just a relationship in general, you may find times where you, there's some like weird, awkward distance, not like social distancing, but like there's just some weird distance between the two of you. And you're like, what's your problem? Like, why are you upset with me? And my wife will be like, I'm not mad at you, but you're acting weird towards me. Like, I'm not acting weird towards you. You're acting weird towards me. And so it's this kind of like go first mentality. Like, I think that she is acting differently, upset, whether it's at me, hopefully not, but like at something, or she's had some negative experience that is causing her to be different towards me. So I begin to behave differently. I don't behave as myself as I want to. I behave as somebody that is now on the defensive or is reactive to what she is doing, the behavior that I perceive, by the way, she's demonstrating. And so this has been a great opportunity, though we still have these challenges because we're just two human beings coexisting, and we run into these challenges, continuing to try and grow and develop ourselves. But as this is happening, I am trying to do more self-reflection. Okay, am I acting differently towards her? Am I acting differently towards her? And if so, I need to change that. Because even if she's upset with me, I shouldn't be upset with her. If she's upset with me, I shouldn't not want to serve her and care for her, because I love her. And I'm called to serve her. She's my wife. And so again, it's how do we self-reflect? And as we self-reflect, we will go back to number one, which was we will gain a better understanding for knowing ourselves. So that's know yourself, right? All of those characteristics becomes okay, go be yourself. And then here is where we begin to kind of dream a little bit, both in the present, but also into the future. Is the third area then is become the best version of yourself. And so this is my favorite part, but it can't happen until 1 and 2 are already going. But this area number 3, become the best version of yourself, starts with you defining the characteristics of the person you want to become. Be realistic with now who you've learned yourself to be. Like, I'm never going to be the center for the LA Lakers. It's just not going to happen for a lot of reasons. One of which is because I'm just not that talented. So we've got to be realistic. We have to ensure that we are setting ourselves up appropriately. This isn't about setting goals. This isn't about, I mean, it can be about, where you hope to be in the future, but this is still about ourselves. Who do we want to become? Like, I want to become known. One of the greatest legacies I pray I leave when I leave this earth today or 50 years from now, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, maybe. Who doesn't want to live to 120? One of the legacies that I want to live is that I was myself at all times and in all places. I want to leave a legacy that I was not ashamed to be who I've been created to be. But in order to do that, I've got a lot of room to grow. Look, I can go around wearing a hat about being authentic. I can make stickers, which I did. I can make t-shirts, which I did. I wish I had one. I'd rip my shirt off right now so you could see my Be Authentic shirt underneath. It feels so like superhero-esque. But um, but I'm not there yet. I can talk about it all I want, but I still have a lot of room to grow because there's still things deep in here that I'm afraid to let out. I'm just being super honest about that. And so I need to grow. I need to grow in that area. And one of the ways, by the way, talking about functionally how this works, is to just continue to push myself to let it out. I also want to be gracious now, but also I want to be more gracious in the future, more generous in the future. But in order to lean into those things, I have to continue to test myself. Right now is a great example. I just told you I lost a crazy amount of money. I'm not going to stop being committed to giving. For me, that's our local church. That's a couple of other organizations. I'm not going to stop giving because I am not getting. I want to be known for my generosity. And so that means I've got to lean into it. And obviously, there's times and seasons when things like this get more challenging, but I want to lean into it. I want to be one of the greatest husbands to ever live. My wife, she loves me enough that she'd be like, you are the greatest husband. And she's just pretty biased. I know there's a lot of areas that I come up short. And so I need to identify characteristics of a great husband, of a great father, of a great business leader. I want to, like, even professionally, I want to one day stand on a stage in front of thousands and thousands of people and get a standing ovation, not because of who I am, but because of what I've been able to give to other people. But I'm probably not there yet. Like, I think I could do a pretty good job. I think I could hold my own with most. But I need to continue to practice the art of becoming the person I want to be, knowing myself already and knowing that there's deficiency inside of me. Some I can't control, other things I can work on and grow through. And so I've got to do that self-work. And this is not a put a plan in place, work on it for a year and be done with it, or watch this pretty line of an increase in my output or outcome. It's just not going to be that way. Like, it's again, ever evolving, ever growing. Like, there's never not going to be a time when I can't be continuing to work on myself. All the while, by the way, this is a great time to say this. Most days, in all the happiness and all the joy and all the mess and all the ugly, I'm proud of the person that I've become. I'm proud of who I am today. And I know that if, God forbid, my business fails, like if this is the last month that my business is in existence, that does not change my value and my worth. It doesn't change who I am. It may change the way like things look on the outside, and I may not be super happy every single day about it. I would bawl tears if that was to happen, but that doesn't change me. That doesn't change who I am, who I was created to be. I'm still the same person. And as a matter of fact, even if all of those circumstances change, I can still be the person that I believe I've been created to be. I can still be a business leader, even if I'm not a business owner. I just need to continue to seek out opportunities to grow in the midst of that. So again, let me just kind of run through this, and then I'm going to work over to questions, and I'm going to open it up if anybody has any. If not, that's totally fine. But I want to kind of reframe just very, very quickly what I've worked through now that we've been going for 45 or so minutes. So I absolutely believe, and I think we can all agree, that there is a problem in society, but really more so in here with us being our authentic self. We can all agree it causes self-image issues, it causes self-worth issues, struggle, hurt, heartache, like it's all there. So that's absolutely happening. Second to that is there's a need to be our authentic self. It's necessary. We owe it to ourselves and we owe it to the people around us to be everything we've been created to be, to live out our purpose to the utmost. And so if we can agree to those things, then let's seek to desire to be our authentic self, which means we have to know ourselves first. We've got to understand who we are before we start working on something, because if not, we end up working on somebody else's terms and on somebody else's framework. So we need to know ourselves. That's self-reflection, self-understanding, self-awareness. That's looking inward on a regular basis. And I usually say this way earlier, but you are a liar. You lie to yourself more than anybody else lies to you. So in all of the things you're telling yourself that you're really, really bad at, that you don't look good when you look at yourself in the mirror, that you're fat, that you're ugly, that you suck, that you're not worth anything, those are lies. You just need to understand that unfortunately, the way we are wired causes us to see a distorted image of who we are. And on the flip side, for the areas that you think you're absolutely nailing it and crushing it, like that you're just absolutely amazing, you're probably lying to yourself to some degree. That doesn't mean you're not great. That doesn't mean you don't kill it sometimes, but you can still do work there. You haven't arrived. And so that's know yourself. That's the first part of authenticity, is knowing yourself. Then it's being yourself, right? So I understand who I am. And so now I'm going to go out and live that. And all the while, I am going to keep in mind number 3, which is becoming the best version of myself. I've got work to do. I've got opportunities in front of me to grow, to develop, to learn, to gain. I mean, joy and fulfillment are what's at stake here. The more you lean into who you are, the happier you will be. It's just as plain and simple as that. So if you can agree to the first 2 things and then work through those 3 steps of authenticity, I believe with all my heart that whether we're in a time like we are in right now, or we are coming out the other side of this chaos, we're watching the economy grow, we're back out interacting with friends and family, and we're having a happy old good time. I believe that putting in this work is critical to you living the very best life. And I don't mean that in some fluffy, ridiculous way. I mean, you'll really feel it in here. You will really feel the joy and fulfillment of being yourself. You'll feel comfortable in your skin. You'll be able to step into a room and carry confidence into that room, knowing that you're giving everything you have to the situation at hand. That you'll find the success that was set forth for you. That you can go out and achieve so many more things when you gain the confidence in who you are, not in trying to become something that you're not. So anyway, if there's any questions, thoughts, I'm going to turn it over really quick. I'm just going to go to my computer. I'm going to look and see if there's anything there. I don't think I've seen anything pop up, but if there's any questions, type them in now. Regardless, I'll probably say this again if there are questions, but thank you. It's a hard time. If there's anything that I can do for you personally, this is not a pitch for service. This is me extending myself to you. Reach out. Send me a message, email me. Many of you found me through LinkedIn, DM me or message me there, DM me on Instagram if you came through that. If you're on YouTube, send me a message there, however you see fit. If there's something that I can do to help support you, to encourage you, to be there for you, I want to do that. So let me check real quick and I'll be right back. All right, so it looks like we're good. No questions. That's awesome. Either I bored you to death and you were just here for 45 minutes and trying to pass some time in the midst of a crazy day, or you got what you got. And I hope it was helpful. I hope it was beneficial to you. Thank you so much. I'm probably going to try and do some more of these over the next few weeks, as we will all be in similar states. So, oh, here a question just popped up. So hold on one second. That was just a kind compliment from my BTR family out there. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you, thinking about you. Crazy that we just got to spend some time together, which was wonderful. Hopefully we get to do it again soon. I'm praying for y'all. Every single one of you, not just them, praying for y'all. Just wish you the very best. Again, if there's anything that I can do for you, please ask, please reach out. I'm here for you to the very best of my ability. Take care. Talk to you soon.